Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance Sexton, good to see you.
Good to be here.
Delaney, good to see you. Fraud Friday special edition. Before I get into that, I want to do a plug for our friends in Mid-America. Lance Sexton, Mr. Lance Sexton will be presenting there. What is your topic, Lance?
I'm not sure yet. I got to get with my good friend Jim Kaler. And he talked to me about it a couple of months ago. Of course, Mid-America is near and dear to my heart. Bob, I presented there for about 10 straight years, and then COVID happened. I missed 1 year, and it broke my heart. And then I've been back each year since. So I'm very excited to see my friends from Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico. I'm very excited to see all of them.
Very good. We will put the link is up on our website. We'll make sure we get that out in our reports. Sarah, good to see you. You're on mute, Sarah.
Sarah, you're on mute.
Oh, well, hopefully we didn't scare her away. Anyway, Lance, it's going to be the first week in April. It's going to be in Fort Worth. Delaney, I understand you will be going there as well.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I had a great time last time meeting everybody.
We will be live streaming our show on one of those days with Lance and Delaney. I believe also Anna is going to be making an appearance. So we're going to be down there. It's a great event. Those guys do a great job. Highly encourage your people to get there. Sarah, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Bob. Nice to see you.
Oh, I'm so glad you are here. Sarah is the lead commercial statistical analyst with Equifax. We love having her on. She gives us a good macro overview of what is happening in small business debt performance, i.e. delinquencies, by industry, by geography. I'm going to start with her, and we will stick around. We're doing a teaser for our Fraud Friday. But Sarah, tell us what's going on in the United States with respect to small businesses.
There's a lot going on, Bob. Like on a macro basis, there's a little small slowdown in lending from what we saw last year. But actually, the index is very resilient, shows a pretty high level. Now, this is nominal, it's not inflation adjusted, but it shows a pretty high, strong level of lending activity to close out this year. Even though there's some factors like high interest rates and things like that have been pushing on small businesses, they need cash. So there's been a lot of lending activity, and it's very industry specific right now. Like some struggling industries that we'll kind of touch on are transportation is dropping a lot of volumes, versus industries like healthcare or like arts, entertainment, recreation, industries like that are showing more reasonable gains. So it's a very different story, like depending on what industry you're looking at.
Great. And by the way, we will be sending these slides out after the presentation. I love this map. Tell us about this map.
Yeah. So you might have seen on the last slide that delinquency chart is looking a little, it's starting to get up a little bit high. So we have rising metrics on pretty much every level, 31 to 90 days past due, 91 to 180 days past due, and defaults. And this is across industries. So this map is the state by state, year over year change in the 31 to 90 days past due. And there's a lot of orange, there's a lot of red on this chart.
I assume we want to be in the green area.
Green would be better.
Okay, good.
So Sarah, light green, which is the state I'm from, light green is good, huh?
Yes, that means that delinquency decreased in that state.
Wow.
So 42 states have increased in delinquency from last year. The biggest ones are Nevada and Utah, have the biggest increases, but that's mainly construction and transportation are the biggest drivers behind that. Versus you look at like Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, they don't have as much increase, although they do have some in the construction and transportation. But mainly like retail and more general, like administrative industries, those are looking a little bit better.
What's what's Iowa's problem? They just got all that influx of cash from the presidential challengers. What's is that an outlier, or what do you think?
That's a question I ask. No, it's unfortunately agriculture has been increasing as well. And if you top that with the construction and the transportation, that's where I was having a rough time.
I know energy prices have decreased. With this is through November 23, when energy costs were still a little high. I was wondering if the price of that affected the agricultural section, the price of gas.
Yeah, and then you have like changes in demand and consumer demand is quite different. So there was a lot of spending and a lot of new businesses that came into play during the pandemic. And there was a lot of money to be had, right? There's a lot of loans, there's a lot of cash around. And now that's pretty much gone. Like there's nothing really left of that pandemic money. Right. And so those new businesses that started up, particularly like transportation, you could start a trucking company. All you need is a truck. That's it. You're done. So where there was that demand for small loads and things like that, now it's not so much there. Stores are holding on to a lot more inventory. And so we're seeing that struggle, and then it ripples to other industries, and it ripples, where you see consumer debt is super high as well. So we're expecting like a consumer pullback this year a little bit in consumer spending, which then affects, the rest of the business industries as well.
Yeah. Excellent.
And you can see that here. This is the kind of time series of each industry and their delinquency level.
Yeah, look at transportation.
Yeah, the hockey stick line is transportation.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we have a lot of interest at Equifax in my lenders that I work with in my consulting function. They want to know like how bad is my delinquency compared to everyone else, because they see that big increase. It's more than doubled from last year, and so it's a little bit. Even though if you see the 2022, 2021, like that was almost the lowest delinquency ever. It was very low.
Yeah.
Even though we are increasing from a low point, it's still not what it's not what these companies are used to seeing. From the transportation industry, businesses, and especially trucking lenders have some serious changes going on.
Yeah.
But all of them are definitely up.
Right. Look at that trend. Everything's up in terms of delinquencies. And do me a favor, again, how do you define that 31 to 90%? That includes not only bank lending, but also trade credit, correct?
This is only financial. So
only financial. Okay, thank you.
This is that type of activity. So
great.
Yeah. I think the thing that really stands out to me, Sarah, is I'm looking at the retail line, and I'm surprised at how well it performed. I mean, it's not shooting up like transportation. It's not shooting up like construction and healthcare. It's kind of, it increased, but it's kind of leveled out, it looks like.
Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with kind of a shift from the pandemic into online retail as being a big business with a lot of expansion versus the in-person retail. A lot of that it's captured in the 2020, 2021. And if you made it through that, like you can make it through anything. But
absolutely.
The online.
But I didn't mean to cut you off, Sarah, but I just love this chart. And I think this is a great example of putting things into perspective. As you said, 2021, we had the spike. We're nowhere near that on a percentage basis. And we need to understand the historical context of where we were in 2010. So, things are trending up, but we are nowhere near the disasters we were looking at in 2021 and 2010. Is that a fair assessment, Sarah?
Absolutely. We got used to a certain, some very cash-heavy market, you know, and there's PPP loans and idle loans and cash to consumers, and there was just a different scenario than we have today. So we got kind of used to that low delinquency environment, and now there's a bit of a correction, but it's by no means, you know, a recession on an overall basis, or anything close to what we had in 2009, 2010.
Great. Excellent analysis. Go ahead.
This is the default index. So this measures default rates across time. And just it's ordered from the biggest change from last year to the smallest change from last year. And so you can see transportation in terms of default is almost 200% above where it was. It's around 6.5% total default rate. And every industry is up from last year. So here the retail trade has a little bit of a bigger change in default than they do in light delinquency. We are seeing some flattening there in the retail segment. Seems to be leveling off. And then on an overall basis, we are still trending up. We do expect some more increases next year on an overall national basis before it starts to level off the end of next year, beginning of 2025.
Great. Well, Sarah, I really appreciate. Do you have anything else for us? I think we got one more. Go ahead. Oh, yes, definitely. Go into this one.
Projections, default projections. So the forecast for 2024. So the biggest jump, again, is continued in transportation. We do expect the rest of the industries to creep up more. Again, not to the level of, 2008, 2009, but close to that 2020 sort of level before we start heading back down. And again, it is quite industry specific in terms of how much impact there is. But the 2024 forecast, we're expecting at least most of the year to continue to have some default rate increases.
What I enjoy in looking at these charts, you look at this and then puts into perspective very nicely where we are today. You read today about the problems that are with media information, Sports Illustrated, the LA Times, other types of legacy media. And that certainly makes sense, especially with transportation. And Lance, as you said, I'm surprised as well. Retail is looking strong compared to everything else.
Well, and I think this is a great chart for each of our participant lenders to consider, because they're always looking for new arenas, new areas to lend money with SBA. And you may take into reflection the forecasted default rate when you're trying to find a vertical to work as an SBA participant lender. So this is great information.
That's very good. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I love your stuff, and I'm glad you're able to get on. And you will, if you're available, we would love to have you anytime you want to come on and give us your charts for us stat nerds. I love this stuff. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Always
enjoy hearing from you.
Great,
thank you, Delaney. Thanks.
Delaney, let's go to Fraud Friday. Interesting story. What do we got?
Yes,
you're welcome to stay, Sarah, by the way, or you can log off. You're welcome to stay. I didn't mean to kick you off. Go ahead, Delaney.
Thank you.
I was quite thrilled to see this. During my studies, we talk a lot about legal precedents. I do a lot of research on legal cases. But before I kick off the story, I'm going to send a question my dad's way. Would you say it was common for there to be mistakes or good faith errors during PPP in the applications?
Yeah, I think that PPP applicants in a rush to get the money could have made mistakes in number of employee counts. Now their payroll amounts probably are going to be correct unless they manufactured it. But, it was not unusual for PPP borrower to make an honest mistake on their PPP application.
Well, with this case, that seems to be the situation. Manpow LLC. This is the first lawsuit involving the False Claims Act and whistleblowers that has been completely dismissed. Three
like
former employees at this company alleged that the company was applying for and receiving PPP loans, loan forgiveness using false statements and certifications. Now, during this case, they revealed that their first PPP loan, they got just over 1.4 million, and on the application, they had stated they had 41 employees. Now, this was an error. The CFO originally thought they had 141 employees, so it is a little bit of a difference, but that can happen. So it made no real difference to their average monthly payroll costs, besides, of course, the wrong number of employees. Similarly, they alleged that the company had claimed none of its affiliates had a PPP loan. One of them did. It was a pretty minor loan for 10 employees. And even after SBA was made aware of the lawsuit, there was no point where they reconsidered the loan forgiveness decisions. They never further reviewed it or asked the defendant to return any of their PPP proceeds, because all throughout this, they were always very willing to work with the SBA, send in whatever documentation was requested. So this was a good outcome, I believe.
Yeah, it's really great to hear a story about somebody who made an honest mistake. Just about got drug under the bus, but by being cooperative, by providing information, this honest mistake was vindicated, and they were not prosecuted.
And these loans were forgiven, and SBA said no. We're going to stand by that decision. So good job, Delaney. I agree with you. I think the court got this one right. There was certainly no intent to defraud. There were misrepresentations, but they were, as we say, immaterial and did not affect the purpose of the loan, which was to keep people employed. What you got for us? Go ahead, Lance.
Oh, I'm sorry. The key point Delaney made, Bob, was the payroll amount was correct.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what you calculated the PPP loan amount based on. So that error, while it's
an error.
Yeah. It didn't impact the amount of the SBA PPP loan.
This will be a great precedent for other companies going forward, and hopefully we can see more of this.
Mr. Woodard, what did he do?
Yes, I think this is something we've talked about many times as we've talked about PPP fraud. So he originally got a PPP loan. I believe $20,800, so not a super substantial loan, but once he got the loan and realized, hey, I got that rather easily, he then started to advertise on social media saying, if you come to me, give me $10,000, I will help you get a loan.
Oh my gosh.
He apparently submitted at least 56 fraudulent applications. And that resulted in about 1.1 million of losses, but he will now have to pay for that quite a bit more in return.
Almost 2 years in jail.
Yes, and 19 months.
So guys, the interesting thing about PPP, that I saw so many ridiculously funny videos on YouTube about people who were willing to help you get a PPP loan. And the funny thing about that, are they not smart enough to know that SBA can drag that? They can get that and see that and use it.
FBI agents use these also, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Real quick, you have one more story. We're running out of time, but go for it.
I will run through this pretty briefly. This person submitted 12 idle applications seeking almost 2 million. Once those were approved, they purchased 11. 4 hours. Yeah, it was all. Thank you for mentioning that. I would have missed that. It was all in the span of 4 hours, 12 applications. Once they received the proceeds, they purchased 11 different properties in the Miami area. They got, I believe, 12 months in prison, so not necessarily a huge sentence. They did start selling these properties and trying to return the funds to SBA once they were being investigated.
Delaney, I love how you phrased this. I'd love to know. I know there's more backstory to this. Once the FBI visited him, he began selling the properties and paying back SBA. That's very succinct. I assume there was more to it than that.
Yeah, probably, but for the sake of time, I will leave it at that.
Very good. Delaney, good job. Sarah, great stuff. Lance, thanks for joining us. We'll see you Monday. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great weekend.